Emley Moor, a bleak, easterly slope in the Pennines just above Huddersfield. A home for hardy sheep, and the home also of Yorkshire Television's lifeline to its region of 7 million viewers. It's Wednesday, the 19th of March, and the weather is as severe as anyone living can recall. Shepherds bring feed to sheep which haven't seen grass for days. The giant tube, which pokes 1,200 feet into the freezing air, pumps out Yorkshire's television signals from Teesside to Lincolnshire. Ice hangs with a cruel beauty from the weather-stunted trees and shrubbery round the transmitter station at the foot of the mast. A staff there of technicians keep the power flowing smoothly up and out from the area. Ice is also forming along the massive guy ropes and the 9-foot diameter of the mast. But no one knows just how much because the upper regions have been shrouded in mist for days. Pictures taken at a height of 200 feet the day before give some idea of the extra weight being carried up there. Transmission, however, is progressing normally. The pop programme Discotheque is being sent out to the region. The time is 1 minute and 45 seconds past 5 o'clock in the afternoon, precisely.
Billy's gone over to join the Remo, and they're going to play and sing for you Morning Dew.
At the first stroke, it will be 5, 2, and 10 seconds. At the first stroke, it will be 5, 2...
And I was just coming out of a neighbour's, and they had this shuttering, you know, just like thunder. We thought it was an aeroplane coming out. And I just looked up and I said, it's the mast that's fallen.
We rushed downstairs and it was obvious to us then what had happened when the transmission failed.
Well, it was just like thunder coming down, and I thought it was the ice of the mast.
As soon as I realised what it was, I dived under a table, because knowing the weight of steel there was up there, it could easily have come clean through this building. As it was an absolute miracle that nobody was injured at all, and that the mast snaked its way and fell between the various buildings.
Have you been frightened?
Oh, we have. We didn't know what to do.
And picked her up and run across my mother-in-law's, went up and waked my husband up straight away. He was in bed.
Well, yes, I was a senior shift engineer on the evening shift of that day. I came in by car about 4:30. My usual approach road was blocked by barriers. I carried on to the next road and found that blocked. When I got up here, I found that heavy deposits of ice had been falling off the mast all day.
I came in the chapel yesterday afternoon about 10 minutes to 5 with the caretaker.
Just as we were going through the chapel, there was a crack above his head, and we was looking up above, thinking it was ice, and then we looked round, and there was a cable coming through the roof.
It's cut through it like a bearing cheese.
They asked us the night before not to go to bed, you see. But Charlie did, that lived with me. He said, stay down here in your sleeping bag. He says, don't go to bed. He says, because I'm not a bit keen on the mast tonight. He says, I'm not going. He helped to build the mast, you know. Charlie said there was so much ice on it on one side, as he imagined, that it might fall. He was worse frightened than I was frightened of it. Of course, he was maintaining it, you know. He was, they'd asked him to go up, but he wouldn't go up, you see. He said, no, it's too dangerous.
The mast actually belonged to the Independent Television Authority, but the crash hurt Yorkshire Television more than anyone. YTV's managing director, Ward Thomas.
I first heard about it sitting in a lecture hall in Leeds University, when the public relations officer came in and said something had happened to the mast, and it sounded quite serious and we might be off the air for a couple of days. The first reaction was to be completely stunned. I don't think anybody had ever put up a mast in under 12 months, and for perhaps 5 minutes, I suppose I sat with my head in my hands thinking, how does this company survive 12 months off the air?
Problems indeed for Yorkshire Television, but the job for the ITA was to find out why the mast had collapsed. The man in charge, ITA engineer Ray Hills.
Now, Mr. Hills, this is your mast, your head of masts and aerial sections. You yourself saw this mast completed less than, what, 2 years ago?
About 2 years ago.
And now you see it in ruins on the ground.
Yes.
What went wrong?
Or whether, of course, it's too early to say. We have already started an independent inquiry. One of the experts has been on site this morning, and I'm expecting the other two tomorrow. I think this is bound to go on for weeks, perhaps months, before we really get to the bottom of it.
Is it true, though, that ice must have been the main contributory cause?
Was undoubtedly a contributory cause. Whether this was associated with a structural failure as well, we shan't know until we've carried out the inquiry.
The man with the biggest headache of all was ITA Chief Engineer Howard Steele.
Until we know why the mast collapsed, I mean, we know that the quite unprecedented amount of icing had a lot to do with it, but we don't actually know what gave. And until we know what gave and how it collapsed, we can't really say, what the cause of it was.
You must have expected there to be severe ice.
No, on our original 450-foot mast, we never had anything like the ice problems we've had.
Feet, though.
Yes, I know. But you see, unless someone puts up a sky hook and does an experiment, you never really know what the conditions are going to be.
Will there be anything at all, any way at all of de-icing, vibrating, heating?
Well, we were first alerted to this ice problem, of course, of the big ice fall we had in February 2 years ago. We've also been in touch with practically everybody who knows about de-icing, the aircraft industry, fluids and so on. We've even considered running heating cables up the stays, but the power consumption is quite enormous. It was calculated to be about, if my memory serves me right, about 840 kilowatts. That's equivalent to 840 one-bar electric fires.
I think that in this country, designers are not aware of climate in the way they ought to be, and we've had a number of major disasters, like the Ferry Bridge disaster, which have been essentially climatological disasters rather than construction disasters.
Professor Page of Sheffield University, a man who's made a special study of the meteorological consequences of building tall structures.
Well, there's quite a lot of evidence on the file in various places, particularly in relation to electricity transmission lines, that in higher areas, and particularly the Pennines, mentioned in an article I was reading published in 1946, has been an area where icing was very common and very destructive for electricity transmission lines. And I think the people who often design from rather more favourable sites don't realise what it's like to be in the Pennines. One of my colleagues in the university who works on space physics, has been in the Antarctic and also has a station in Derbyshire, says that when things start to go wrong in Derbyshire, they go wrong much more quickly than they do in the Antarctic as far as ice and snow is concerned.
Well, do you really think that when the mast was designed, they in fact made enough provision for the amount of icing which it could be expected to receive?
Well, I think the evidence now shows that they didn't. It's of course easy to be wise after the event, but I've been in touch with a number of people in various countries in Western Europe and in America, and obviously there's quite widespread concern about this problem of icing of tall masts. And the conditions we encountered here, I think, were exceptionally bad, and I've only found comparable data from Norway and the very worst parts of Russia. In some ways, I think this mast, as far as the central section was concerned, was much better than the lattice type of structure at home masts, because I don't think very much ice accumulated on the central part of the structure. All the ice that I found was ice that had fallen from the guy ropes. This was a very substantial thickness and would have produced a very severe loading on the whole mast. And I think it didn't occur to people that the loading on the cables could become as severe as it did. I think that on ground level here in Emley Moor, people recognise the danger to life and to buildings and so on. You can see the alterations being made to the church. But I don't think it occurred to anybody sitting here in Emley Moor that the whole thing could be brought down by ice. I think everybody was taken totally by surprise.
What wasn't appreciated was that ice could form on 2 ropes out of 3, leading to an imbalance of loading on the mast itself.
It was shocking. I wouldn't want it to come down again. Never.
If they built another mast on the same site here...
Oh, we're moving. We're out. Straight away. Yes.
The ITA have offered to buy these houses, you know.
Yes, oh yes, we know. But we don't want to move.
So you wouldn't move, you'd rather the mast came down?
Yes, I'd rather the mast come down than us move.
But I don't want to move. I want to stay where I am.
Mr. Geoffrey Jessup is a trustee of the Emley Moor Methodist Chapel, and he shares two things with most of the local residents: the habit of wearing a crash helmet in winter when in the vicinity of the mast, and the opinion that perhaps a mistake was made about its location.
Well, we feel, which we felt all the time, even when the mast was originally being placed there, that the planning people had made a big mistake to put it at a road junction.
If the mast could have been shifted a few yards over that way, it would mean that the ropes wouldn't have gone over the road, perhaps.
Yes,
and hence you've had the falling ice over the road.
The problem is, of course, that you get losses in the feeder cables. We'd have had to have nearly double the transmitter power if we'd moved it just 100 yards or so.
The ITA had an emergency mast in Litchfield, and during that night they got it on the road despite snow and appalling weather conditions, and they got it up here by the following afternoon and started to put it up. This obviously was some alleviation of the problem, but we didn't know to what extent it solved anything. Initially we were thinking this mast was only covering perhaps a third of the area at the most, and once again we were sitting here with a television station trying to live on a third of its revenue for a period of time that we just didn't know.
The temporary mast was less than a sixth of the size of the monster which lay in fragments at its feet. But the task of erecting it quickly was a major conflict against the uncertain weather. Riggers worked round the clock, fighting numbed fingers and fatigue. But the 5-foot segment slotted together at a remarkable pace, and by 4 o'clock on the Sunday afternoon following the collapse, a signal was again being transmitted from Emley Moor, a total gap of 3 days, 23 hours. But 30% of the region was still without pictures, so financially the wound was only partly healed.
Going back to that Wednesday, there seemed to be no solution. By Thursday we had got a partial solution with a temporary mast. By Thursday evening we had found a mast which could possibly be erected quite quickly. We at that time thought it was in America. By late Thursday night we found it was in Sweden, and we had an engineer on the night sleeper to London who got to Sweden the following day. Saturday morning telex messages were going backwards and forwards about the specifications for this mast. Sunday morning we brought in the engineering consultants because we had to talk about laying new concrete foundations, and we had to find the reinforcing and all the rest of the bits and pieces that go with it. By 8 o'clock on the Monday evening there was a meeting at the ITA in London, and by 12:30 the following morning they had agreed that all the bits and pieces would fit, and we would go ahead.
The daily calendar programme followed the progress of the mast. Simon Welfare reports.
8:30 on a cold, wet Monday morning at the King George dock in Hull, where behind me the 675-foot television transmitter mast, which will replace the one that collapsed at Emley Moor 10 days ago, is being unloaded from the ship that has brought it from Sweden. Within hours, this mast was located at Mora in Sweden, 250 miles north of Stockholm. It had been made for the Swedish Air Force, but they didn't need it, and so they agreed to release it to us. The mast is in 34 20-foot sections made of triangular steel tubing, and although the finished mast will be only half the height of the mast that collapsed, it should be bringing good television pictures to the whole of the Yorkshire television area. Its main advantage is that it can be erected in record time due to a revolutionary type of crane which climbs the rigging as the mast is being put up. And to make sure that the whole operation is done speedily, British manufacturers are working round the clock. The firm that's making the aerial, for example, has cut its normal delivery date from 2 months to just 17 days. From here at Hull, the mast will be taken on lorries with a police escort to Emley Moor, and the mast could be up within 6 weeks, depending, of course, on the highly unpredictable weather at Emley.
At that time, we were forecasting the most optimistic schedule back on the air with this mast was 25 days from then, which was, I think, about the 25th of March. By the Friday of that week, concrete was being poured, and concrete lorries were arriving at Emley Moor on a 10-minute schedule. By the Monday, the mast was shipped to Hull and unloaded and on site at Emley.
Then came the really tough part, when the struggle passed into a new phase. A basic battle between sweat, muscle and skill on the one hand, and time and Emley Moor's ugly brand of weather on the other.
Looking back the 4 weeks to the time it happened, it's almost impossible to realize the complete sense of desperation one felt that day. We were a new company. With no money in the bank, we haven't made large profits. We were facing the prospect of losing £500,000 a month of revenue for an indefinite period of time. But then we started to find the solutions. And as soon as our engineers had located this mast, we started to see daylight. From that point on, the contractors, and particularly the ITA, whose mast it is, of course, have worked to such effect that every record in mast building, I think, has been broken. The situation was helped too by the fact that the temporary mast covered a great deal more of the area than we expected. Consequently, our revenue loss per day was much less than we thought.
10 riggers worked to erect the new mast. 10 men with hands and faces turned to leather from years of work like this. They willingly accepted the challenge, taking no time off except to eat and to sleep away exhaustion. But luck was with them, and with us too, as the weather held over the crucial Easter period. To a man, they are of Polish origin. Their foreman is Władysław Poreki.
Well, there's 10 of us in the gang, including me, and we've been working as a team for 6 years. Well, background, we're all from Poland. Some of us went through the Polish army, and some of us went to the Africa, Lebanon, Middle East, all over the places till we landed in England. Well, we found out, we're local lads, all from Leeds, more or less, and we've been working on such jobs, pilot jobs before. So we, stay together as Polish. We can understand each other better, well, mind you, we can talk English as well, but somehow we like to be together.
We're just used to, we're working as a team. All of us are used to the jobs. Everybody knows their job, and that's what makes their work safe.
Well, it's all right, We're all together, and 7 years now, and we're still happy.
Yes, I'm proud to be the member of the team, which is supposed to be the best one in Europe.
If you all stick together, it's much better. Because if somebody new came here, and don't know job, and that way it's better if we stay all together.
The mast rose at a staggering speed, and as it grew higher, so the gloom began to lift at Yorkshire Television.
So gradually, day by day, the problem and the size of the catastrophe has diminished. Now we're back on the air ahead of the most optimistic date that anybody ever thought possible. We have lost some money. We haven't lost a catastrophic amount of money, and the future of the company isn't affected, and the future of program making isn't affected.
Well, as far as the money concerned, I'll say frankly, we should be paid more than we do get, but these days you can squeeze nothing out of firm or government.
Well, it's not too dangerous if you just know what you're doing. If you know your job, it's quite safe.
It's bad feeling because the whole mast is moving about 2 or 3 feet either way.
I fell about 60 feet. Well, it's a high beam from 150 feet. And knocked me up to my shoulder and broken collarbone and knocked me down. I just fell to the 60 feet. I saw the little wire erecting, which we pull it still up. But I feel something wrong with me. I just grab it here in my head and saw blood, and after I feel different, it start pain, and I can't go anymore because my hand is swelling and bleeding.
It is very dangerous if you don't watch it, and that's one slip and you had it.
Oh, second time I'm just fell from 40 feet, that doesn't matter. I'm just broken 2 legs, that's all, because I've been safety that time because it's not so far.
Well, I would say, we like danger, but also if we are paid well for it, we don't mind it, you know, but to explain you why, it's hard to explain from my side anyway.
And their battle was finally won. We were back on the air to the complete region, while the Polish team won from the press the accolade of Europe's best team of riggers. Even Goran Forsström, who came from Sweden to supervise the mast erection, was amazed at the speed and efficiency of the operation.
Yes, well, I must say this one is one that it's never happened before, that any mast that I have been supervised that have been done so fast and in a good way.
Well, it's because it's everything like easy.
The note of triumph from a man who knows he's just completed a tremendous achievement. And so, instead of a whole year off the air to the full region, we only lost 27 days. Or to be precise, 27 days, 20 hours, 43 minutes and 15 seconds.
And we look forward now to getting back to business.
Oh, you mean that job? Oh, very good. Good climbing and good fit, everything like, and easy and quick. Well, I think so, it's very good. My opinion is the best job. That's all my story like.